For generations, we've been sold this idea that owning a home is the cornerstone of the American dream. It's this huge symbol of success. But what if the deal we're all supposed to be celebrating isn't actually as good as it sounds? Especially right now, with prices and interest rates where they are, we've got to look past the dream and really break down the financial reality. The numbers that nobody really wants to talk about.
Okay, let's reframe this for a second. Imagine you're not at some sunny open house. Instead, you're sitting at a big, polished desk, and someone across from you slides a paper over. They say, here's the deal. All you gotta do is come up with, say, $60,000 to $100,000 in cash right now, up front. And then for the next 30 years, you'll send us a payment every single month. I mean, that's a massive commitment, isn't it? But believe it or not, the terms are about to get even worse. So the person across the table isn't done. They lean in and say, oh, and for the first few years, yeah, those big payments you're making, they're not really going to build your ownership much. Most of that cash is just going to go straight to us as interest. And then they add, by the way, you're on the hook for every single repair, every leak, every broken appliance. Plus, you'll have to pay a fee every single year just for the privilege of owning this thing. I mean, when you lay it all out like that, the question just screams at you, right? Why on earth would anyone agree to this?
And this is where it gets crazy, because millions of people aren't just signing this deal, they're celebrating it. They're popping champagne, they're posting it all over social media with huge smiles. Why? Because that deal, that's a 30-year mortgage. That's the deal we make when we buy a house. And that is exactly why we need to separate the emotion of the dream from the cold, hard numbers. All right, so let's get into it. The first thing we need to tackle is something most people totally underestimate, the true all-in cost of owning a home. Because believe me, it is so much more than just that one number on your mortgage bill. Okay, let's make this real. Let's say you're looking at a home for around $450,000. You put 20% down and your main mortgage payment, principal and interest, comes out to about $2,275 a month. That's the number you see on the online listing, right? It's the one the lender puts in big, bold letters. And you think, okay, I can handle that. But here's the problem. That number is dangerously incomplete. Because that number is just the tip of the iceberg. Now we have to add all the other stuff. You've got property taxes, that's easily another few $100 a month. Then there's homeowners insurance. Oh, and maintenance. People always forget this. The rule of thumb is you should expect to pay 1% to 2% of your home's value every single year just on upkeep. That's thousands and thousands of dollars. And we're not even talking about huge one-off things like a new roof or an HVAC system, which are pretty much guaranteed to need over 30 years. And when you actually see it visualized, it's kind of shocking. On one side, you have that nice, clean mortgage payment you were quoted, but on the other side, that's your real monthly cost once you pile on taxes, insurance, and a realistic budget for maintenance. It can be 50, even 100% higher. We're talking about a massive difference that can absolutely destroy a budget.
And then there's this number. And honestly, this one is just staggering. On that original $360,000 loan, over the full 30 years, you'll end up paying the bank about $458,000 just in interest. I'm going to say that again. You pay more in interest than the amount you actually borrowed in the first place. Okay, so the costs are way higher than they look on the surface. But hey, at least you're building equity, right? That's the whole point. With every big payment, you're owning more and more of your home. Well, you'd think so, but the math, especially in those first few years, tells a very, very different story. Just take a look at this timeline. In that first year, pretty much your entire payment is just feeding the bank's interest machine. Fast forward a few years, and even after 5 whole years, after you have personally handed over more than $130,000, guess how much you've actually paid off on your loan? About 20 grand. You've barely even made a dent. And here's another way to look at that exact same 5-year period. Of all the money you've paid, a whopping $136,500, look at that tiny little sliver. That's the part that actually went towards building your equity, about 15%. The rest of it, that huge chunk, 85% of your money, yeah, that was pure profit for the bank, all interest. And you've got to understand, this isn't some kind of glitch or a bug in the system. It's not a mistake. 30-year mortgages are designed this way on purpose. The interest is front-loaded to make sure the lender gets their money first and minimizes their risk. But now we get to what might be the biggest cost of all. And it's one that never shows up on a single statement or bill. It's totally invisible, but it is incredibly powerful. We're talking about opportunity cost.
So what is opportunity cost? It's actually pretty simple. It's just the potential return you miss out on because your money is doing one thing instead of another. So think about that massive down payment. What else could that money have been doing for you if it wasn't locked up in your house? And this is where the numbers just get, well, eye-opening. Let's play out two different futures for your $90,000 down payment over those same 30 years. Path 1, you put it in a house. Based on historical averages, it might grow to be worth around $600,000. Not bad. But path 2, what if you invested that same $90,000 in the stock market? Well, based on its historical average return, it could grow to over $1.5 million. That difference, that's the opportunity cost. You know, we hear it all the time, right? Renting is just throwing money down the drain. But let's be real for a second. When you own a home, a huge chunk of your money is also going down the drain on things that build zero equity. We're talking about property taxes, insurance, all that maintenance, and most of all, that mountain of mortgage interest. None of it, absolutely none of it, increases your actual ownership stake. Now look, the point of all this isn't to say that buying a home is always a bad idea. It's not. The goal is to go into what's probably the biggest financial decision of your life with your eyes wide open to the real numbers. So let's talk about a smarter way to decide. Okay, here's a simple 5-step framework. Number 1, run the real numbers. I'm talking all the costs, taxes, insurance, maintenance, everything. 2, compare that total number to the cost of renting a similar place, and then figure out what you could do by investing the difference. 3, be brutally honest about your timeline. If you don't see yourself staying put for at least 5 to 7 years, closing costs can wipe out any potential gains. 4, do not drain all your savings for the down payment. You need to stay liquid for emergencies and other opportunities. And finally, number 5, and this is the toughest one, you have to separate the emotional, I want a home feeling from the cold, hard financial facts. And here's the most important takeaway. The version of homeownership that actually builds wealth, it definitely exists. It has for millions of people. But, and this is a big but, it's not automatic. It's not a guarantee. It requires buying at the right price, at the right time, and making a decision based on clear thinking, not just because you feel pressure to, or because it's what everyone assumes you're supposed to do. So at the end of the day, the question you really have to ask yourself is this. Is buying this specific home at this specific time a genuine step toward building your wealth and financial freedom? Or is it actually a move that's going to limit your options by tying up all of your capital into one single illiquid asset? Look, there's no one-size-fits-all answer here, but just asking the right question, that's the most important first step you can possibly take.